Welcome to the Open House podcast from Living Room Realty. Today on Open House, Everyday Excellence, we're talking about a part of the transaction that doesn't always get the spotlight, but might be where great agents do their best work. Rachel Jensen brings a clear perspective today on the inspection period. She sees it not as a hurdle to get through, but as a moment to lead. A moment where information replaces fear, relationships matter, and clients are guided to make decisions with clarity and confidence. This is where preparation, communication, and trust all come together. So thanks for joining me today, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Most agents talk about pricing strategy and negotiations as their value. And you're making the case that the inspection period is where great agents really prove it. Why?
I think that the inspection period just has such huge value for several reasons. Besides, a buyer's home purchase is going to be one of the biggest purchases of their life most of the time. And really digging in and finding out the conditions of the house and what you're buying, there's so much value in that. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that I don't think is ever really talked about, even from an agent building their book of vendors, right? And how much goes into that, because the average buyer is not going to have a book of contractors or someone to contact if there's an issue with the sewer line or the structure. But a lot of homeowners know how difficult it is to find good contractors.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So the value in being able to connect your buyers with professionals that can give their professional opinion so they can make an educated decision during the inspection period, I think is one of the hugest values that an agent can bring. And I think maybe we don't talk about it a lot because it's not the sexiest part of the transaction.
Yeah.
It's really pretty scary for buyers and sellers, but it's the time that you can really dig in and get so much important information about the house to make a decision. And the way I like to describe it to my clients is it's not just about negotiating. We're not just finding items to negotiate. And I tell that to my co-op agents too. We're finding the information that the client needs to make an educated decision. Because often what happens is if you don't have that information, you can't make a good decision without the information, but there can also be a knee-jerk reaction because you're scared of the unknown. So finding out that information, I just think is a huge value add in so many ways to the transaction, facilitating a smooth transaction, doing what's right for your client and getting them the information, co-oping well with your other agent too. And it's in the best interest of all parties to get that information for the buyer so they can make an educated decision on how to move forward. Because once you know, I feel like it's a lot less scary.
I think that's great too, because you're building a long-term relationship with your clients. You have a referral-based business. And so you're preparing yourself and them for the calls and the things that they're going to need to do in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, or when it goes, if they need to move, it goes back on the market. And so you're helping them develop a plan, not just for that purchase, but for the length of the time that they have the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I also think that one of the things that we never talk about is that oftentimes buyers are making offers on homes that they'd spent less time in than they probably did test driving the car.
I know,
that they drove
true.
there in.
Yeah.
So it's that period to be like, okay, let's really look at this.
Yeah.
So Rachel, this process is really daunting for most buyers. And this is what we do every day. So I think that we forget how many steps that there are, because probably the general feeling out in the market is I get an agent and they help me find a house and then I buy a house and then it's done.
Yeah.
And for us, we know all of the work actually happens after you find a house. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we might not even be involved that much in that. Like that is for our clients to identify where they want to live. And then once that's identified, we're doing a lot of that negotiation. We're getting them into contract, all of these things that take a lot of skill. Can you break down a little bit about what some of the major parts of the transaction are before we dive deep into the inspection process, which is generally about a third of our transaction timeline?
The way I always like to explain it to clients is, we're going to go and look for houses. Once we find the one that is the one that you love and want to write an offer on, we're going to submit an offer, but also I'm going to chat with the listing agent to see if there's any other offers in hand. We're going to look at days on market. We're going to look at the history of the property. Has it gone off market? And get all the details so that we can make a competitive offer that protects interest, right? Offer gets accepted, 3 days to deposit earnest money, and then we have the inspection period. For the inspection period, what I always like to tell clients is be there for the last 30 minutes to walk through with the inspector so that you can ask questions. And after those questions are asked, I get the report, they get the report, we both look through the report, and then we hop on a call together and review those items and see what's the best way to proceed forward and what do we need to get more information on.
And how big are those reports?
Oh, the longest one I have seen is over 200 pages. They can be very long. I've also seen them not, but on average, they're probably, depending, they can be about 50 pages long, but you want a detailed report. You want to know everything that's going on. It's really going through and getting the information on those items that makes it less scary. You want to know what's going on with your house so that you can, whether it's small or big, so that because you don't want a small item to turn into a big item.
Yeah.
Finding out what's critical and not critical, that often happens after you get the inspection report and once you start talking to contractors. Many of those items that seem scary are often very easily addressed.
And then once you get through the inspection report, then you're helping them through the finance contingencies, getting everything in order, looking over, making sure if there were repairs that needed to happen, that those are happening, permits are getting closed, invoices are being paid, things are going through escrow.
Making sure that everything is ready to go for the client to sign and get the keys to their house. So after the inspection period, it's really checking all those boxes, making sure everything is paid and ready to get closed up.
And for a buyer, do you feel like in those, there's a lot of things that your agent will do for you, but I think to your point, you're getting to show a lot of value within the inspection period because those are times that the buyer really has to be involved, and they need the education, and they need to understand what it is that that they're purchasing, signing up for, and willing to move forward.
Yeah.
If I'm a buyer, in your opinion, do you think it's better I get a credit to make the repair myself? Or do you think that it's better for me to ask the sellers to have it be done? I think a lot of buyers question well, what's the better way to handle this?
Oh, yeah. I get that question all the time. And my answer to that question is always, it really depends, right? If there is the potential for the scope of work to increase when you start to repair that item and that cost is going to go up, my professional recommendation would be to get the repair done before closing. If you're going to add $5,000 onto your cost, let that be under the seller and have that closed up before. If it's something where it's not urgent, and maybe potentially you could shop around, or there are design decisions that need to be made, then I would recommend getting a credit after closing so that you can schedule the work yourself and also sign off on the work yourself, because the seller's probably going to try to find the least expensive route to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it might not be how you want it or what you expect it to be. So it really depends. There's pros and cons to both. If it's a health and safety issue and you need to move into the house or scope of work would increase, I usually recommend having a repair done. If it's something that you want to have personal oversight, I'd recommend a credit.
And so much of it is probably just so particular to every single client's situation.
Oh, absolutely.
How much reserve finances do they have? What does their financing look like with the bank? What are going to be the terms that the bank's going to require? Or do they have cash? Or what timing issues, all of that stuff.
There's so many variables to that particular question on, and the ability to be able to make that repair and the urgency of the repair.
And I can see where having a really strong agent like yourself in your corner would make a big difference there.
Oh, yeah.
Walk us through what's actually happening behind the scenes during an inspection period that most clients never see.
Starting from like when you're there with your client and they might not be noticing that their agent is walking around looking for condition issues, but also looking for access points for where the inspector needs to get in to inspect. Because you only have a certain amount of time to perform your inspection. And I like to get an inspector in there right away, so we have time to dig in and get more information if needed. But so it could be everything from looking for access points. I mean, I've seen crawl spaces floored over and, sewer lines covered up, and it just delays it.
Yeah.
If you go under contract, you're delayed by a few days when you could be getting information. So the things that clients don't see, even when the agent's right there, is they're looking around to see if there's going to be problems even before you go under contract. And then behind the scenes as well is really building those relationships with contractors. Real estate is such a relationship-based business. And having contractors that you can rely on that give thorough estimates in a timely manner is a job in itself. Yeah. Agents interview contractors. They work with several contractors coming in. They have generally a good agent's going to have a good base of basic construction knowledge to know who to contact when something comes up. And then also, too, just the relationships that agents have with other agents is huge, because real estate can come up with some really wild scenarios that it will take a specialist. But if you have a strong network of agents like here at Living Room, you can reach out, and a lot of agents have dealt with that issue before and can recommend someone if it's something that's really obscure. So a lot goes on behind the scenes that I think it's not just receiving the inspection report pages, going through it, and it's over. A lot of it is building relationships to get the information that's needed in a timely manner and to know who to connect with.
Because I think probably any homeowner that's listening to this has had that experience where they have a plumbing issue or they need a new plug-in, and they are like, who do I call? And not only that, maybe you get them in there to get a bid and then you never receive the bid, or you don't hear from them again. Or like, do they do good work? Can I trust what they're saying? I mean, and to think about going through a process where you buy a house where you not only need the opinion maybe of that single contractor, but maybe 8 to 10 others, and to think about coordinating and doing that all on your own. And that is really the work of a really seasoned buyer's agent, is that they have those relationships, they're built, they have trust, and then they can get that information back quickly. And I think it's interesting. You started this conversation with saying, the agents don't talk about it. And it's like, is that because it's really hard to say? Agents initially are like trying to sell themselves and their services.
Yeah.
But it's not us. We're only as good as the team that we build around us, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of people. I think I read a statistic once that to purchase a home, it took over like 40 people have to generally, on average, touch a transaction, or it was some number of like where I thought, God, that's a lot of people. And then you sit and you think about it, and you're like, oh, that's right.
Yeah, that is a lot of people. But yeah, when you think about it, that makes sense.
And you're the ringmaster.
Yeah.
As the agent. You mentioned having this strong bench of contractors and specialists. And how, for a new agent, how do they go about starting to build that?
Really reaching out to other agents is a great start to build up a base of good contractor connections that you can rely on and trust. More seasoned agents is a great way to start. I've gotten a lot of great contacts just being under contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's me reaching out and having to try to problem solve and connect with a lot of people, or on the listing side, they send someone over and like interviewing that contractor and ends up being a really good contractor.
Yeah.
So, but relying on your agents.
Do you have any tips to, what have you found has helped really well to help you retain the people on your list of, your team list of contractors that show up again and again for you and your clients in a way that is timely and you can trust them? I mean, there has to be some things that you do that puts you up at the top of the list, I imagine.
The contractors, they have their own small business too, and that's one thing to be aware of, and not to run them ragged on trying to bring down prices where you're not actually going to utilize their services. First, it's not a great way to move forward in a transaction at all. But also like respecting their time as a small business owner. If it's something that I just need, like I have contractors where we have such good relationships that I can ask them just to price stuff for me if they don't have to see it on site.
Yeah.
Of course, there's times where they actually have to be on site. But let's just say a client needs to know what, 5 outlet replacements are going to be. An electrician doesn't need to come out, but I have electricians that'll give me that price for the client to have. But it's also referring them out to clients after closing.
Mm-hmm.
And during the contract, and the good ones I continue to reach out to so
Mm-hmm.
that I continue to support their business, just like they're supporting my business by showing up in a timely manner and giving honest and thorough estimates.
This is often the most stressful part of the transaction
Yeah.
for everyone involved, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
woohoo, we finally bought a house, or for the seller, yay, we're in contract. And
Yeah.
then the inspection period, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
What does great communication look like in your mind when emotions are high on both sides?
Just staying in really good contact with your co-op agent is really important, because they're the communication front with the seller,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if they're not getting information and you're just sending a massive amount of contractors in, the likelihood that the tension is going to rise is high. But like your job as a buyer's agent is to represent your client and get the information that your client needs. So staying in really good communication with all parties, letting them know who you're sending in, what you're looking for, and just keeping the line of communication open with everyone. And then for clients, getting that information often brings down the temperature in the room, because then they have the information a lot of times, especially for first-time home buyers, when something like they don't know what the cost of a water heater replacement is going to be. But then when they see it, they're like, oh, I thought it was going to be a lot more.
Yeah.
Oftentimes. So things don't seem as scary for them to, and then they can make that to move forward, and for them to make that decision on, can I take this on myself after closing? But then also it's important to, walk your client through what the inspection looks like, what to expect. are they going into older homes before even getting under contract? Like prepping your client ahead of time for that. But I've always found that getting more information is better and brings down the tension in the room.
Yeah, it's so true. The fear of what might be is a lot harder to deal with than just like, okay, well, this is what this looks like.
Yeah.
And then you can move to solution or maybe this isn't the right house if the two parties can't come together to work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share a moment during inspection where your work directly changed the outcome for your client?
I was representing a buyer client of mine, and there was actually an old water heater system that actually connected to the furnace. It's called an Apollo system, and it's pretty unique and it's outdated. It's hard to find parts for it. That getting more information on that so that my client could make a decision and reaching out to several different plumbers, because a lot of plumbers don't work on those systems anymore because of the parts and the supplies. And it just was a short period of time that they even had Apollo systems, so they don't really utilize them, or they don't utilize them anymore. So getting the information for my client so that she could make a decision, she decided to move forward. But it was scary at first, seeing that and not knowing, that the systems are connected and it's an older system. What does that look like when replacement comes? So she ended up making the decision to move forward. But I think if she hadn't had that information, that would have been a difficult decision to make.
I can see that. That's like, wait, I've never even heard of this. None of my friends are heating their houses. Yeah. So if I'm a newer agent who feels a little unsure still about this phase in the transaction, or I'm a buyer who's nervous about what might come up, what's the one mindset shift that you want folks listening to this to walk away with?
That everything is repairable and everything has a solution. It's just finding that solution and seeing if it works with both parties.
Yeah.
It always, especially for first-time home buyers and agents first starting, the inspection period seems scary. I find it fascinating because you learn so much about systems and houses, but understandably, it seems scary. But the more information that you have, the less scary it is. Yeah. And everything can have a solution. It's just whether you can come to terms and always push forward to be solution-based.
I'm still surprised at this point in my career. I've been doing real estate for 25 years that people are like, well, the roof is near the end, so I don't know that I want to buy it. And I'm like, well, did you ask them for a new roof? Or, this is an option. But I think we as American consumers are so used to like, it's on the shelf, it has a price, and that's how it comes. And it's like, that's not how real estate works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What's one way agents can start talking about their value in the inspection period starting today?
I think just letting clients, reassuring them about the process and how they help with that process, right? When it comes to the book of business that they have, the book of vendors that they have established, the agent connections that they have, the time it takes to build that, their own knowledge, just of homes in general, home condition issues in general, and the ability to find solutions, right? An agent's job isn't to know everything about home conditions, but it is to be able to connect you with someone who can give you that answer.
I also feel like I've heard you in our office before. You're sitting and talking with clients and advocating for them and assuring them that like, hey, this is normal in the market that we may ask for some of these things. And that oftentimes I think buyers don't really know, like, oh, the sewer line's totally collapsed.
Yeah.
Well, there are some things in the market right now, the way that it is, that's probably going to be something that the sellers will take on. So let's ask.
Yeah. And like when you're prepping your client before you even go under contract about what the inspection period looks like, That's what I always tell my client. I mean, there's so many variables on how many offers they received and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we're looking for health and safety issues to negotiate potentially. If it's a house that's been sitting for a while and the sewer line, it needs repair, the roof needs repair. Those are things that we get costs on. We see if we can negotiate them. And you're not purchasing the inspection period is a contingency. So it's such a great reassurance. You don't have to buy the house until you come to terms on conditions. And that's one thing that I don't think a lot of first-time homebuyers understand right off the bat, right? You're not locked into the house. Like, your due diligence period is also your negotiating period.
There are also, I think, things that we can help our buyers inspect that don't require so much an inspector, but just even that invite to like, hey, this looks good right now. We're here at 2:00 in the afternoon. Come back and take a walk at night.
Yeah.
How
absolutely.
do you feel? Or taking them and like accompanying them and like, let's go talk to a couple neighbors.
Yeah.
And for us, I think too, something else that we bring as agents, you're talking about your contractors and those relationships. Well, we're also like, here at Living Room, there is going to be an agent that's got a client that probably lives within a few doors down of your client. Like, let me see if I can connect you and talk to them about some of these things, these idiosyncrasies, a lot of them that we know in neighborhoods, but then also be able to connect them to people in their own neighborhood and neighbors. And all of those resources surrounding a buyer can be just so valuable into that information gathering phase.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's different than looking at Portland maps, right?
Yeah, not the same.
Yeah.
It is not the same.
Tell all the same story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else that you would want to tell a buyer who's just getting in and they're a little nervous? Is there any last piece of advice you'd want to give to a buyer about this inspection period?
For the inspection period, it's not as scary as it seems. And partner with a great agent that can help you get the information that you need to move forward.
Rachel, I love that you helped us pull back the curtain on this part of the process and showing what thoughtful, steady leadership from our agents really looks like. And to everyone listening, this is your reminder that excellence often lives in the parts of the job that we don't always see, but they're always felt. You leave people with such confidence. I really appreciate that. And thanks for being here today with Living Room Community on Open House Everyday Excellence.
Yeah, thank you so much.